Hey everyone.
Hey guys, how are you doing?
We're so excited you're here
Yes,
with us
we
to talk
are.
about games, especially in these trying times. We know, first of all, thank you to all of you for joining us. We know how difficult it is to find time in your day, in your evenings, and away from families to come learn more. So thank you. Thank you from us, and thank you from your students for wanting to get better at this. And we are so excited about this because these are games that not only can you play in the classroom, but like Kim mentioned earlier when we were chatting about this, these are created with definitely a virtual or COVID style in mind because they're easy to play on your own, over a screen, and so much more.
That's right. So we tried to think of games that would be easy to send home, just 3 things of supplies: cards, dice, and dominoes. And a lot of places have these, at dollar stores. So they're really easy and inexpensive to pick up. And then just by sending home either the actual printed version of the game or by sending parents a link and inviting them to print the game, they would be easy for you to use. So that's kind of where we're going today. Adam and I've had a great 2 days playing the games and being sure that we've got everything perfectly ready for you. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Now, of course, we want these to be easy, and we want children, to not be sitting behind just a screen without being actively involved. But there's a lot of good reasons to do dice, dominoes, and dot games. Not dot games, dice, dominoes, and card games.
They all have dots on them at some point.
Right. All of these 3 tools are a great way to develop the concept of number. Number refers to the quantity, the sets of dots, for children to develop those fluency, that automaticity with identifying that quantity, and to see the relationship between the different quantities. This is also when children begin to subitize and they start informal strategies of addition, subtraction, missing add-in, counting on, all those different strategies that kids will use when and if you begin addition, subtraction, and those types of mathematical problems.
And today, a lot of the hearsay and complaints that we hear as teachers about the way math is taught is that it's so different.
Right.
But that's what these types of games, and really that's what, when we think about the way standards are driven today, is the purpose of that is to teach just this, to teach all of these strategies of understanding numbers and number fluency and number identification. And we hope that doing that will make that easy throughout these games.
Okay, so what we want to know is, what we want to remember is this, is children do not become fluent by flashcards.
Right.
Okay, and by time tests. Those are assessments of fluency. Fluency is developed by building and doing and seeing combinations over and over and over again. It's the repeated practice. So all of these activities are going to provide opportunity for that repeated practice. Okay, now this is a great screen just for you to go ahead. If you have your phone available, you might want to go ahead and just take a photograph of this screen. And here's why. So often when we're doing math with kids, we don't know how to promote that mathematical thinking, but all of these are good questions that you can use during all of your math instruction. These are all questions that promote thinking and talking about math. So I just wanted to put this in here really quick because these are all questions that you can use during these games or during any math instruction. So if you had your phone out, just snap yourself a really quick picture of that screen.
Well, the talking about it is so important too. I know my son, even I think a lot of times we think about talking, asking questions with the kids who are struggling. Right. But it's so much more, I mean, just as important, maybe even more important for the kids who just get it.
Right.
Because I think about my own son, and we do stuff like this at home because he does just get it. And I'll say, how did you figure that out, buddy? I just did, Dad.
Yeah, so when kids say,
we have to ask these questions to really make them understand that there is a process to why they're thinking that way.
Yeah, when kids say stuff like that, I just know it.
I just know it.
What that really means is they don't have that academic vocabulary that they need. So when kids say that, you can come back always with, well, you might be thinking, and start attaching that math vocabulary because they just don't have the vocabulary yet to explain it. Right. Okay, so when we're doing math and when we're doing these games, we want to remember that really all math should be taught in this sequence: conceptual, pictorial, and abstract. These are your three main words, okay? So in conceptual, this is when we're using real manipulated, that's a big word, isn't it? Manipulated objects. When you manipulate objects.
Manipulatives.
Right, manipulatives, right. So this is kind of the hierarchy, you know, using the real objects. So like if you're going to be doing apples, you would be having real apples, right, then erasers of apples, then clip art of apples, and then red Unifix cubes to represent apples. Okay, so these are kind of the ways that we want to be teaching the math concepts first. Now, this is an example of that. So right here, kids are using Play-Doh balls that they can manipulate to make number combinations. Okay, so that's the conceptual. Now, after that, we go to pictorial, and this is where we say to children, draw me a picture of 5 apples. Or we have them look at a picture and we say, how many apples? And they have to touch and count the apples on that page. Okay, that's pictorial. And here's an example of that, where children have used bingo daughters to create an image that you can no longer manipulate on the page. So this would be a pictorial representation. Now, the reason why I'm showing you that is most of the games that we're showing you fall into pictorial learning.
Right.
All right. So if your kids experience difficulties with these games, it's not that they're not ready for that standard. It's that they're not ready for pictorial understanding yet. And you would want to back up and have kids do these math standards with real actual manipulatives, because what we're showing you today falls into this pictorial learning. Now, after that, of course, comes your abstract, where you're using numerals and symbols. So anytime you show them the numeral 2, anytime you show them, you're at the abstract level. So right here is where kids on this recording page would write different ways to make 5. So all of these examples were how to make 5.
Well, they build on it. And what I love, if you go back a few slides, these are so easy to build on with all of these steps. If you go back to the apples, they've used Play-Doh first,
right,
for that conceptual.
Right.
Then they use that same concept of the Play-Doh, but they put it with the do-a-dots.
The pictorial, absolutely.
And you had a dice in there too, back on the pictorial one.
Right.
And now they're actually doing the full abstract. Right. So they build upon each other. And then you're going to notice your students who are ready to move on will automatically just kind of do that.
Right.
Well,
so I guess the reason why we want to show that is because we don't want people thinking games don't work.
Right.
We want you to know that games are pictorial representation. And so if kids are not experiencing success there, that they might need to back up to the manipulative form first.
Right.
Right. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and Adam and I are going to show you some fun, easy games you can play with your kids. Now, the first game we're going to play with you is this comparing game. And in this game, you can play this game with actual real. So let's get the real cards out, Adam, and show you. With actual real cards. Now, right here, what we have here is we have real cards. Now, what you're going to notice here is what we can do here is these are only the 6. If I wanted to play with kids that were not ready for combination subitizing, 7 through 11. So, or 7 to 12, I guess. No, to 10.
7 to 10.
We'll get it right here in a minute. Okay.
What kind of playing cards you got?
Right here, what I have is 1 black set and 1 red set. Because really, guys, that's enough for the game. You don't need to have all the cards.
Right.
Okay. Now, another thing we've done, where are those other cards? Is last night Adam practiced his
paper cutting
skills, and he fixed these cards for us because I want you to notice what we're doing here. All right, so what do you notice about these cards?
Only the picture.
Only the picture, because what we want kids to do is we want them to really zero in on the set. Other words, if we show them, let's get an example here. If we had that and this, okay, and you ask kids how many on this card, and then you ask them how many on this card. When you show this card, children who already have numeral recognition are going to zero in on the numeral.
Right.
They're never going to develop that mental image of those 6 images, whatever they are.
On the other hand, though, kids who don't are going to count but they're going to count these two
Oh yeah, that
sometimes
could,
as well.
yep, that could happen
And that happens
too.
with my little, I see it with my pre-K kiddos.
Right.
I say, well, if you don't know the number, you can count the shapes.
They count
and
all
they'll
of
say
them.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm like, no,
Right,
just a big one.
right.
So it does. It makes it tough sometimes.
But this is really what we want,
right?
Because we want kids to develop that mental image of the set. So go ahead and take your cards and just cut those off. Now, when you get to the abstract version, of course, you might want to do this. Now, another thing you can do is you can make your own cards. So what we did was we just used clip art and we made our own cards. Now, when you're making your own cards, you guys, you want to do this. You want to always make an empty set card because the concept of zero is really a tough one. Okay, so let's move those other cards out of the way. We're going to take these cards and we're going to put them in a pile. Okay, we're going to put our game board on here.
This is one of my favorite game boards too. I've played games like this, and you probably have too, in your classroom for the longest time. And for the longest time, it was more is better, more is better, more is better. And when I saw Kim put these out, I was like, this changes the game. Because,
we all know more is not better.
Right.
We don't want to stay home more days. Right? We don't want to gain more weight that we've already gained during COVID.
First grade, if there's any first grade teachers watching, they're going to love you kindergarten teachers if you teach them the concept of less, because I've heard from first grade teacher after first grade teacher that kids come in and they get more, more, but less is such a hard concept for them.
Okay, so Adam and I are going to each take a card from the stack and we're going to look at our cards. Okay, and so see, I have more. So I'm going to put my card on the more side. He's going to put his card on the less side. Now, I always say whoever is less, because we want to celebrate less, right? So whoever is less gets to spin the spinner. So Adam, you spin the spinner. And it landed on less. Now, y'all take a quick look at that spinner.
This is genius.
So what I've done here is, let's take the cards off so we can show them, is we've put a brad with a paper, one of those little, what do you call that? Pony bead.
Pony bead.
And then we've put it through the back. That pony bead is why it actually spins.
Lifts it up off the card stack.
All right, so it landed on less, is that right?
Yep.
So that means that Adam wins, so he gets to keep both cards.
See, and this is one of my, the thing I love about the spinner, like Kim mentioned, you can use regular cards, you can use the cards we cut, you can use any type of cards.
We can play the same game with these cards right here.
But it really drives home that concept of less, more, figuring out greater than, less than, which can be a really hard skill for some.
All right, so when we're doing this, so this is, kids are playing with a deck of cards, just like I had there, but sometimes you know how like in the dollar spots you can find those seasonal cards. Yeah. So these were some Caterpillar cards. So I didn't have to make any cards. I just put those Caterpillar cards with a spinner and a more and less board. Here's where I've made it just like we showed you, but we made one for, you know, fall. All right. So what we've done is we've made the same game to last all year.
That's the big key is we want to teach games, and we preach this all the time. Find games that will work, that you never have to reteach the game. Right. You just change the content. Right. Change the content without changing the game. Because we know at pre-KK, first, even second grade level, teaching rules is what takes the longest sometimes. So if you can play a game over and over again, you're golden.
If we have some first grade teachers here, this is one of your standards where the kids have to say if the equation on this side is equivalent to the equation on this side. So this is the perfect game with this. You flip over 2 cards, I flip over 2 cards, we add them together, and then we decide whose sum is more and less. If they're equal, then you just put those cards back in your stack and you just go again. But it's a great way to show children how to compare what's one equation to another equation. All right. Here's where we've played it with just regular cards. What we're trying to show you guys, really, if you teach this game over Zoom, and really a lot of your parents are going to know this game because they've played it when they were kids, right? You can play this game all year long.
One of the things too that I talk about with Zoom, because everybody questions, well, if you're playing a card game like War or Battle over Zoom, how do you know who actually wins? And my wife, Trish, and I, we came up with some ideas for that, you know, if maybe your kids could be working on tally marks. So if you beat the teacher with your card at home, then you get a tally mark. First person to 10 tally marks wins, because across the Zoom platform, you can't keep the cards, right?
Yes.
Or maybe you're working on counting by twos. So across the Zoom platform, if Kim's at home and I'm the teacher and Kim beat me, she's gonna mark a 2 on her paper at home and she's gonna count by 2s to 10, whatever it is. So you come up with a goal point, work on whatever type of counting you're working on, and then you can play these in a virtual setting, no doubt.
Right, exactly. Okay, so we've said a couple of times here that you can use these games to play for lots of different standards, right? So that's what's really cool. If you're in your small group, so like if you're, whether at school calling and playing with a small group, or whether you're calling kids into small group Zoom meetings, you can teach the same game to all your kids and then just change what you do with the cards. And we now do that through our assessment.
We do.
And how do we go assess? You know, of course, with ESGI, right? So one of the things that, I don't know, it's been several years ago, ESGI asked me to write some assessments to go with all of the DI small group math units that I had written. So we created a series of assessments. So you can use those assessments right there in ESGI to assess your kids. When you get done, it's going to give you
tons of reports.
Yes. And so one of the reports it gives you is this one, which tells you which children have mastered it and which children haven't, because you don't want to call kids into a group for something they've already mastered.
Right. And that's the point behind ESGI. I mean, a lot of people know ESGI. You're all here because you know ESGI, but a lot of people don't know what it stands for. ESGI stands for Education Software for Guiding Instruction. And a lot of people just think assessment and they think a one and done thing. Assessments are done, I got my report. And that's not what this is about. This is about using the data like we're showing you on the screen right here, and the data you can see on the next report for the parent letter, and using that to really guide the instruction that you're doing in your small group. So like Kim said, you're not pulling children to work on skills.
Right.
I mean, obviously we want you reviewing. You're going to review all the time, but you don't need to be driving home skills that they already have. And that's what we love about this assessment software, is it tells you right there in black and white with no computation on your end what your kids need and what they don't.
Yes. And then, of course, this is real important, especially in today, where if you're doing any kind of hybrid where you have your kids part of the day and then part of the day they go home, and you're kind of assigning things through Google, which is what we do through Google. You're assigning those assignments, and parents like sometimes are at a loss.
What do I do?
But ESGI provides those flashcards that go right along with those ones that they need extra practice on. So
the other thing we love about it too is ESGI is such an easy observational assessment that you could be playing these games, like all the ones we're about to show you in the rest of this, and the ones we just did, dice games, domino games, card games. You could be playing simple games like that and doing observational assessments of children's skills while you just step out and let two children play the game together, or watch them play it over a Zoom setting.
Yes.
And you can be ticking off boxes left and right of their observational skills that you've been watching.
Absolutely. Okay, another game you can play with cards is what we call adding cards. Now, what's cool about this, guys, is all those cards that you used for the more and less game, you can hit those same cards and pull them right back out and use them again. So what's great is you can send home or make for your classroom, if you're in classroom, just the different game boards and then use the same cards, okay? But because you've done a different game board, the kids now see it as a different game, and so you keep that novelty up. But this is perfect. They just take two cards, put it on opposite sides of the plus sign, and then they have their sum. So what they did was on this, they actually did on a recording page. So it's assessment time.
Yep.
Okay, so if you look here on the left, we have our
their left.
Yes. Is that conceptual, pictorial, or abstract?
Pictorial.
Yeah, absolutely, because we got the picture. Now we
do have that I stuck.
No, that's great, Adam. You have to think about it. Perfect. So that we do have that little plus sign in there, which kind of throws in the little abstract there. But if you look on the right, it's not that we're not going to have our kids do abstract learning. We are, but we don't start with abstract. We transfer from conceptual to pictorial to abstract. So when you're starting to introduce abstract, it's always good to provide that bridge between either conceptual or pictorial over to the abstract.
When I think about all the things that people always ask, like, when do you find time to do these? How do you find time to fit games in? Well, if you go back to that screen, or even this one too, you think about, there's so often times where we might be giving an assessment, let's say a math assessment, and it's just addition, you know, like a time test, if that's what you give, or anything. Well, you don't need to be taking a lot of time out of your teaching to practice that, because these games are practicing that. You introduce the concept in a mini lesson, and you let your kids play games like the one you're seeing right here, and they're practicing every skill they need to then be able to go look at addition problems and figure them out, because they've practiced it on their own over and over again. So these games, I mean, like we talk about ESGI saving time, once you have these games ready, it's saving you time too, because you're teaching quickly, you're driving home skills, letting them play the games.
Well, and you're not saying stop, quit, don't a million times because your kids are engaged, right? Here's an easy one. You just give kids a stack of cards. They draw off the top 3 cards, and then they're going to put them in order. Okay, that's all that is. Simple. It's putting them in a numerical order by the well, number order, but
right.
they're not numeral. They're
number
not numeral, right?
Love that.
So you've flown a lot on Delta when you have Delta cards, right?
I didn't even notice this.
Yeah. So what happened was I had a delayed flight.
They give out cards?
And they started giving out all the stuff for kids. And so
can I have some?
Yeah, I said, can I have some too? They kind of looked at me like, okay.
I want to play solitaire.
Yeah, take a free deck of cards. But this one here, we just put the cards out. The kids just take a card, they turn it over, they figure out what the number it is, and then they can go onto their recording page, find that numeral that represents that number, and practice writing the numerals, right?
Yep. These are same thing. You just got it in a picture form.
Yeah, number order here, just in picture form. Yep.
So these are some of my favorite games. I know these are yours, but so Kim could sell her own products all the time, but I don't get anything for telling you about these. And I absolutely love them. Like, people think I share stuff and I'm getting commission. I love this game. The first time I saw her, I think it was in a conference somewhere, I saw you talk about this game. I'm like, I need these. So this is a mystery game that kind of puts some strategy in, because kids want to figure this out. When they know there's, use that word mystery or strategy, or it's a challenge, kids eat it up, right?
Yes.
So these games can be played with clip art cards, they can be played with regular cards, they can be played in any format, but the kids get super excited about trying to figure out the mystery of the cards that you put together.
And the mystery is the counting pattern.
Yeah, it's not really, it's just a skill you want to practice anyway.
Right. So you have to kind of tell them what the pattern is, because if you don't, they won't know where to put the first card. But after that, they have to figure out how that pattern builds. But what you're going to do is, over on the left, you're going to put the picture that represents the suit. So like if you're playing with a real deck of cards, you could put like all the kings over here, throw away the jacks and the queens, you wouldn't need them. But then you're going to have the other 40 cards that represent numbers, let's say 1 to 10. You're going to shuffle them up, and then you lay them in an array face down. All right. And then once you do that, you invite a child to turn over a card. Okay. So any card. So these cards, I have to get really close to see. Oh, they actually have hands. So this card, if you look at my hand, this card down in that little circle is showing you this.
Numbers in that way.
Okay. And they have to know, or maybe it's backwards. I can't tell from the screen. Okay, how many fingers it is. So you can put anything on these cards to show the concept of number.
It could be numbers, it could be the numeral, anything.
So what they have to do is they have to go to that heart row, count over 6 spaces, and that's where that card goes, right? So, well, actually that one had 1. I didn't look close enough. It was only 1 finger up.
Oh yeah, it's a 0 and a 1.
Yeah, okay. I didn't look close enough. So they put that there. Whatever card was in that place, they pick up, because now they have to figure out where that card goes. So that card looks like they're going to put that in the 3 cupcake, is what it looks like they're about to do there. Again, think about those questions that we said at the beginning. So when the child puts it there, you don't want to just say, good, right? You want to say,
how do you know it went there?
How did you figure that out?
Why did you put that card there?
Right. And if they say, I went 1, 2, 3, you could say, perfect. Then you say the next question, did anybody
else think of another way?
Absolutely. You're such a good student,
You'd think we would have practiced this. We have not practiced this at all. I'm a good listener.
That's right. We're so good together. All right. So they could say, yeah, I went to the 1 and then went 2, 3, because I knew this was the 1 row because I already had the heart there, 2, 3. If kids are not modeling that to us, then of course we want to.
That's when you know to start pulling them to talk about. And that's a skill right there that okay, Kim gets it. Adam needs practice with this. I can count to 1, but can you count on past 1 without starting at 0?
And you can model too. You can say, well, you might be thinking, since the 1 is here, then this would be 2, 3. So what we're doing when we do that, of course, is we're sharing our thinking, telling them how we figured it out, which it's not the only way, but it's one way.
But that's the best part about this game is too often when you see games that have a lot to it. I mean, when you look at this game, you're thinking that's a lot, but it's not really. And the cool part is it works for every type of learner.
Yes.
Because every type of learner is going to figure out either they just start at 0 and count to 1. Some of your learners are going to figure out, well, just by looking at it, I can visualize where the 5 is, and I know the 10 is at the end or the 20 is at the end.
Right.
So it works for every type of learning environment.
So here was the problem. I
had this problem too.
My kids did really great with this game when I was in charge.
And then you didn't like the pieces being all over.
Well,
it doesn't work.
They couldn't get them lined up. They couldn't create the array. They could line them up, but it wasn't in a line. So the 6 of hearts would be over here and the 6 of diamonds would be down here.
Throws them off.
All right. So I just created this.
Simple.
Yes, where it's just on a long piece of bulletin board paper, and the kids just lay it out on the floor, and then they can do it. If you go to my blog, kindergals.blogspot.com, type in numberline mystery, the freebie for the letters comes up, and you can just print that out and do that there.
So we talked about war a little bit earlier with the more and less. One of my favorite ways to teach that game is to do it full group. And this can easily be done in a virtual setting, because the way we played this in a full group setting was teacher versus students. And if you've never done games like that, your kids will eat it up. They love trying to team up against the teacher. So
where did you get those big cards?
I got those in Vegas. When we actually got those, but you can get them on Amazon too. I bought them in Vegas.
Great. So tell me how you.
They're huge.
Obviously, teachers, you've realized we have this slide in the wrong place.
No, but yeah.
So we're backing up to the first game.
So now we have big cards.
Yes, we have these big cards.
Fun.
So how are we going to play it now?
So now what I did was I kept the deck of cards by me,
okay.
And I gave every student, just to introduce this game. This was an introductory game. I gave them all one card.
And so you have the rest of the cards.
I have the rest of the cards.
Okay.
So I would call on a student or use a random name generator, whatever it may be. You could even do this as, you're calling out numbers, who has a card with the number 6.
Right.
So that person would come up, and then I draw a card and stand next to them, and then as a class we're comparing more or less. So this is used as an introductory to more or less playing war.
Teacher, I have a good idea.
All right, I thought you were going to question me.
No.
I was getting nervous.
You know how we don't want kids to think more means a lot and less just means a little?
Yep.
So let's say everybody has a card and you turn over a 5, then all the kids who have less stand up.
That's a good.
You see what I'm saying?
About it.
And then you can see all the numbers that are less than 5.
Not just one that's near it, but one that's
right.
way less. Yeah.
I love that idea because it just shows they're not really just comparing your card to one card. They're comparing your card to all the cards.
Yep.
I love that idea.
Simple.
Yes.
And that's how this could also be used in a virtual setting. So if you're a teacher who's still in a full-on virtual setting, just have all your kids have a deck of cards next to them at home.
Yes.
And one at a time, you all hold a card up in front of the camera. It doesn't matter if they have a, a card, a Delta card, and I have a Norwegian Cruise Line card, whatever it may be, then we can just all start comparing numbers on the screen. And even though you're playing, I do wish I was on a Norwegian Cruise right now, although I'm enjoying being here with you. But then you can, like Kim just said, compare all the numbers, but you're also still just playing, class against teacher. And the way we did that then is we just tally marked. So on the board, we had a 2-column grid that said T and S. And we did, whoever got to 5 tally marks first wins. So the thing I love about these games, and especially a game like War, Battle, whatever you want to call it, is if you have 5 minutes before lunch, you can play this game and play to 3. If you have 10 minutes to kill in a day, you say, all right, we're going to play War, teacher versus student. The goal is 10 points, whatever it may be. And there doesn't even need to be a goal, just play. And it can be an easy time filler as well that practices skills. This one, my wife played in her 2nd grade classroom. So if we have some older grade teachers, even later in the year in kindergarten too, this is I love this game. So this uses just a regular deck of cards. And again, you can make it last as long as you want. You can make it last short as you want based on we're going to play it. Based on the number of cards that you give the children, right? So it matters. So it plays 3 people in a group for this one. So we don't have 3, so we're just going to pretend. But what you do is each person, I know, I wish she was here. Each person takes a card and they hold it up to their head.
I don't look at it?
You don't look at it.
Okay.
You look at my card and I look at your card.
Okay.
So if I have to look at it for this purpose, but the teacher or the captain, so the 3rd person in our group would see both cards.
Oh, where is Andy?
Where is Andy? So I'm going to use a number card just for sake of purposes here. So I know what it is now. So if I was the captain, I would say our rule is addition. The sum is 5.
This is missing add-in.
Yeah.
3 plus my card equals 5. So 2.
So there you go. So whoever says with a card on their head first now becomes the captain.
Yes.
So now Kim would become the captain of the game.
So cute. Y'all see my
Andy
card?
would sit down next to me. Kim would say, draw a card. Andy and I would each draw a card, put on our head. And Kim would say, the rule is addition. The number is 10.
Love it.
If I have a 3, or if Kim had a 3, then I would know my card was 7.
Right.
It's so fun. And it does take a little bit of explain. Like I said, this is a later in the year kindergarten game.
Just the
teacher versus
logistics
student.
of it.
Yes.
Not even the standard, really. Just the logistics.
But I walked into my wife's 2nd grade classroom and saw them do, and you can see the little boy there had it stuck in his glasses.
Yeah.
Because he was just like, and they were just going and going and going and going. Again, a game that could fill a really short amount of time, or a game that you could use to fill a lot of time.
So if we were playing it at the beginning, we would just do combinations to 5.
Yeah, you pull out those cards, or even just use cards you made, like you had.
Right.
And have 0 cards in there as well.
Right. I love it.
It'd be a good one.
Love that game.
This one is one that when she said we kind of got out of place, but this is the way teacher versus student looked as they came up. So one student came up, we compared our 2 cards. It wasn't me against the whole class in war. It was me against my little buddy Ron, and then they could figure out who won. If you've never played Sequence with your kids, this is a game that again takes a little bit of teaching. But when you stop and think about games like this, you're really just teaching. I mean, it's just practice of number recognition and counting, and even shapes, right? Like shapes that are on the cards. But this is a simple game. They even have children's versions of it. It looks complex, but a sequence board looks like that with 2 of every card that's in a regular deck of cards. And you all, you split up the cards. You all have.
There's 104 cards.
There's a lot of cards, yeah. But you don't hold them.
Are there 52 cards?
There's 52 cards.
Yeah.
Good job. Kiss your brain. you don't hold the cards for any reason at all.
Okay.
Until you draw. But in the real game, you draw 5 cards, but you can have your kids draw 3. It doesn't really matter at all. So if kids can't hold 5 cards, have them hold 3.
Have you seen those little pool noodles that you can slit?
Yes, we use those at our house.
And put the cards in them?
Play card games, yep. Yeah. They sell card things. My grandma used to use, I still have them. So like old, I can't believe, or whatever type of butter dish. Use the little lids.
Oh, okay.
Put them top to top.
Okay.
And put a brass fastener through them. And then make a little card holder too. You can buy stuff like that, but I like creating stuff. So anyway, you take your cards and you each have a different colored of chips. You could use Unifix cubes, you could use counters, anything. The game comes with chips, but if you don't want to buy the game, lay out cards on the table or whatever it may be. And then one at a time, you take a turn covering up a sequence based on what you have in your hand. So if Kim has the 5 of hearts, she can play the 5 of hearts and she can cover up the 5 of hearts with one of her chips. I take a turn, I cover up one of the cards that I have with one of my chips. The goal is to get 5 in a row. But then kids start getting strategic because they see that if you have 4 in a row and they're holding a card that would block you, even though it doesn't help my sequence, I'm going to block my neighbor. So it's a really strategic game. But if you don't tell the kids that to start with, it's really just number practice. Yeah, because we could do this.
If we want to do addition, we could say you can take 2 of your cards, add them together,
to make a new one.
And then cover the sum
that you don't have a card for. Yeah.
Or if we're doing sequence to 10, we could say take one of your cards, add it with one of those cards.
Ooh, that's a good idea.
To make it 10. I just love it that you can take the same game and teach all your math standards. You know, so this is how we can differentiate. You can play depending on what group of kids or what time of year. But you don't have to teach the rules. Different groups, different rules.
Yeah, and you can get this game wherever game you find board games. But they also have a kids version that does. It's like pictures. So like a pre-K teacher, it has pictures of animals. So you have to match the picture of an animal. It has like the beginning sound underlined, so it works on literacy skills as well too, and you can match them up.
All right, so now let's look at some domino games. So this, what I love about this is what we're going to do is we're going to take a lot of those same card games and we're just going to put them with dominoes. So that's all this one is right here, is the idea of putting them in order. All right, how many dots are on each one, putting them in order. This is that same more and less game, but you draw a domino, I draw a domino.
Flip them
all
over.
Right. Here's bingo, where you turn one over, and then if you have that sum on your card, you get to cover it on your card.
That's what I love about dominoes. It's automatic addition or subtraction tool.
Yes. It's subitizing multiple sets.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I love this one. This is the one we showed you earlier. But basically, you're going to give them their magic number, whatever that number is. And then they're going to use Play-Doh balls to fix their domino cards to match. Right?
And that can be used over and over and over again. That's the cool part about that one.
So Adam, I thought we would show you this game because it's so easy to play. If we can figure out how to change it to
switch to our document camera.
Which one was it?
There we go. Sorry.
Okay, so I just created a game board, just card clip art with some numbers, and we have our pocket of dominoes. Now we're going to play together because it's more fun really to play with a friend, but you can play this game by
sound like a commercial for something.
Yes.
It's more fun to play with a friend.
That's right. A commercial for
It is. It is more fun to play math games with a friend.
Kids could definitely play this by themselves.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Would you like to go first?
Sure.
Okay. So you're going to draw a domino.
Blindly reach in.
Yeah. And then you have to add it together.
You'll see that.
And
so
then
0, 2.
Right. So then you just load the card.
You drive it in.
Yes, driving.
And you will catch I play games like this where you catch your kids driving it down and parking into the parking lot and making noises.
Yeah. All right.
6 and 1 is 7.
Yeah, absolutely. So then they're just going to keep going 5 until they have filled up their game board. And then what we can do is we can add a recording page to that. So put us back to the PowerPoint. We can add a recording page. Hold on just a second.
Not wanting to switch. Come on, back to our PowerPoint.
Okay, this isn't good.
Technology.
Hold on just a second.
Hey, this is guys. Like a virtual classroom.
We're trying to figure this out here.
Well, you can tell them about the recording page until we switch back.
All right, so basically what we've done on the recording page is we've made where the cars are in a table, and then we've put the numeral with that car by the table, and then the kids underneath each of the cars are going to record the different combinations. So see, under the 5, they would write 4 and 1. Okay, but then they would have another one under there too. Like, let me find another one that could possibly go under there. So if you look in here.
It's got power, but it's not switching.
Well, if we did 4, see, this one would have both these on there. So we'd have 3 and 1 and 4 and 0. We're trying to get back to the screen, Andy. There we go.
It didn't do that before, I promise.
We just needed Andy to come in the room.
He just needed to come stand next to us.
But you can see the recording page there where he's writing the sums. So
anybody watching this needs to vouch for us that did not switch the first time I tried to push that button.
We've been trying. Go ahead, tell.
So well, one thing I was going to say about this game too, that when we were stacking them up in your back, I'm not going to switch to it right now, but when you put multiple dominoes in that same one, you know, you could use those also and stack them up like you have in your picture there, and then at the end, which number did you land on the most? Which number did you land on the least? Which one
it really lets them see the combinations that they're going to have the most. But then underneath it, we're taking it to the abstract and they're writing the combinations. Now my kids love that game. So here's a picture of the game, right? So we just started making it with different versions because they don't want to keep parking cars.
Right.
So we made a train. Okay. So here's our train game. Then we made it into houses. Now that was a lot of paper, so I just actually redid it and did it like this. It made it a little bit easier, where we have the houses and they're just putting the dominoes into their proper house by matching up the sum.
Perfect.
Okay. Here's that bingo daughter game that we showed you earlier. So basically you just have the
bingo daughter
dominoes, right?
Oh, the domino, sorry.
And you pick a domino.
I thought you were thinking about what you called that again. You just
and then you can have them just completely copy it.
You could.
But you could also say,
you could give them the numeral and have them make a domino.
Just roll a dice.
Yeah.
Right, or have a set of number cards. Or you could say, like if they had a domino that had 2 and 2, you could say, show me another way to make 4. Mm-hmm. You know, not the same way, right? Okay, so now we're going to show you some dice games. Now, Adam and I are really excited about these because he and I just did these together. And we really tried to think about how we could create some games that would be good for all of our virtual teachers, as well as our teachers who are in classrooms.
Social distancing.
Right, and social distancing. So games that can be played where kids can play by themselves, or you could transition easily to kids that play the games together.
Or even full group too, on a screen.
Right. So, and another thing we tried to think of was games that didn't require a lot of reproducing, so that you could send a game home one time and then be done, and they could play the game over and over again.
And just teaching the same skill without teaching the same game with changing the skill without changing the game. So one of the things that I loved about my trip here to visit Kim was we went to a few different dollar stores, and we love going to Dollar Tree. Gotta go to Dollar Tree and find all the different things you can find. So Dollar Tree right now has 4 packs of big foam dice right now in October when we're recording this for all of you, but I'm sure they'll still have them when you're watching this. 4 for $1. So 4 foam dice for $1. And these kids, the good thing about this is, I mean, the kids love the bigger dice anyway, right? And then you can get a set for your class for super cheap. They're quiet when you drop them on the table. So you guys didn't even hear that. They're quiet when you drop them on the table.
Okay, so do you want to explain this game?
Yeah, so the first one is as simple as it comes. We have different versions of this. We have Cross. The game Cross just has numbers 1 through 6 on it. So the children, either against each other, against the class, or by themselves, like Kim said, are rolling 1 die, and then they're just using a Unifix cube, a mini eraser, a counter, whatever it is, to cover up that number on their board. Right. And they're just trying to fill in their board as quickly as they can. So you could put out a timer, you could just have them play it and see when they get their board done. Right. But then if you want to throw some competition into it, you could play what we call cross your sum. So Kim and I would play this one. I mean, you could do this individual too, yep. But you could also do this with a partner. I guess you could play the first one with a partner as well. Kim and I are rolling 2 dice each now, and we're taking our Unifix cubes like you see in the screen there. And if I roll, like if I'm blue and I rolled a 10, I'm going to cover up a 10. If Kim rolls a whatever's covered up, a 4, she's going to cover 4 with her green. We do that until the board is full, and at the end you see who has more cubes on the board, because if Kim has both 4s covered and I roll a 4, my turn's done. I can't put one of my cubes on the board.
That's right.
So at the end, whoever has the most cubes wins, or the least cubes, or you get out that little spinner that you made, more or less, who wins the game.
So that would be cross the sum. We could do cross the difference.
Cross the,
where they rolled 2 dice, subtracted.
And we also have cross a 10. So roll a die, figure out how many more to make 10, and they cover that one.
That's right.
And that's all in that pack. The one person's going to win. It's all in this pack.
That's right. So what we can do is we can send home just the game board. Really, you don't even have to send dice, because if you're playing with the kids, Adam was telling me about this.
This site is amazing. If you've never used this site before, it's free to use. There is a pro version where you can support the teacher who made this. It was created by a teacher actually from the Netherlands, I think, if I'm not mistaken, called classroomscreen.com. And Classroom Screen allows you to put a background up on your screen, whether it's a smartboard, a TV, your computer, whatever it may be. And there's different, what he calls widgets or gadgets on there. And one of the gadgets that you can drag up is a virtual set of dice. And it has a single die, 2 die, and even 3 die, if you want to work on 3 different dice. So it's a virtual dice where you could share your screen and with that website up, and then everybody has their cross your sum board at home, and you're rolling it on the screen. And you could even say, all right, Jenny, now it's your turn. I'm going to roll for you. And you can even have the student at home like pretend to roll a dice. You click it, it pops up on the screen.
Or everybody can be covering.
Or everybody can be covering too. Yeah, however you want to do it.
Sure. But I just thought that was really great, because you send home the dice, and what happens?
They're lost.
I can't find my dice, teacher. I can't play. I can't find my dice. So this is a great way to be sure that your lesson can go on, even if the kids don't have the dice.
And there's so much more on that website. If you haven't checked it out, check it out, because it's got random name generators and text boxes and all kinds of stuff. It's
so
a cool
I said
site.
to Adam, I said when we were getting this together, I'm like, Adam, surely there's somewhere that you can get a dice that you can use online. And he said, oh yeah, I got that.
Well, there might be other ones, but that's my favorite one to use. I love that one.
Yep. So this one's called 4 in a row. And for this game, what we're going to do is we're going to roll the dice. That's all right.
There we go.
You're going to roll the dice. So we're going to roll the dice. We're going to play this with a partner. You don't have to play with a partner, but I think it's just more fun to play with partners.
It is.
You want to put yours on your side?
Sure.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
Look, these are mine.
Right. So I'm going to roll a dice. I rolled a 4, so I can cover any.
So you're going to roll both. This is a 2-digit one.
This is add. Okay.
This is
addition. So then I have 5. So I got to find a 5, and I'm going to cover my 5.
So same type of thing as cross your sum. If it's taken, you can't cover it up, right? So I rolled a 4, I'm good to go.
So I've got a 4. So see, I can't get Adam's 4. Too bad he got that one. I got to see up here's a 4.
The goal of this is to get 4 colors in a row first. So Kim would have loved it if I hadn't covered that 4, because she would have 2 in a row to go there.
Right.
So I got a 5.
See,
and that would have been good too, but now I can go up here.
See there, because
my 5.
he started, that's a better play than up there, right? Yep. So I've got a 9. So I have to look and say, okay, where? Okay, so look, I could go here or here, because I could do a diagonal line. All right, but I think I'm just going to go here, because I'm only 5 and I probably wouldn't notice it was a diagonal.
Ooh, and I rolled an 8, which I can't really help. Oh no, I can help myself and block you. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I can do my
diagonal.
Well, look,
and then you have a diagonal line going that way too. Right?
So if you think back to like classic bingo games, or even that sequence game we talked about with cards, this is just a dice version of that you can use to do. So we have 4 in a row with just single dice. We have 4 in a row with addition. We have 4 in a row subtraction, and 4 in a row make 10, just like our cover up one.
Right, because we wanted just to create some simple games that wouldn't require a lot of instruction. Okay, can you get us back on the?
Yep, sorry.
Okay, this game is called Roll a Number Line. So basically what I did was I just created a
Blank number line.
Yeah, just blank. But we put the number 1 in it because you can't roll a 1, right? If you roll 2 dice, you can't roll a 1. So the kids roll both dice, and then whatever combination they get, they can put that sum on the number line. And they're trying to build the number line. Who can build their number line first?
Right. And if you don't want to print out, you could have 2 people playing against each other, going to the fastest, who can build it quickest, or you could have 2 different colored sets of those cards. And so Kim's orange, let's say, and you already had your 6 on there, and I roll a 6, I can't put my blue card on 6. So by the end, whoever has the most color of their card on the number line wins the game.
Or you could play it like bump, where I can put my blue on top of yours.
Stack it up on top, yeah.
Yeah, that would be fun too, right? Okay, this is a fun game. This is called Magic Number. And with this game, what you're going to do is you're going to give each child their number. All right. So go back to your ESGI assessments that you did that assessed what number combinations. Those were the ones I was actually showing you at the beginning. And there's assessments for those all the way from combinations to 3 to combinations for 10. So, you know, Adam might be my superstar student. So he might have 9. And then somebody else might be just on 3 because that's what they need to work on. But what we've done is we've created a game that every child can work at their sweet spot.
And work at their own speed.
Yeah, that's right.
So with this one, it's as simple as giving the child the board, having them pick they could pick magic number, or you say, you know what, Kim, I know you're really working on subitizing number 4. Your magic number today is 4. So Kim gets a die, whatever.
And if they're, of course, if their magic number is 7 to 10, you would use 2 dice.
You'd use 2 dice,
right?
Yep.
So I'm playing by myself. So I'm going to roll the dice. And I get a 2, that's not my magic number. So I roll again, a 4. So I can use my tweezers and I can add a pom-pom because I got my magic number.
And
4,
you could make
look,
this,
I'm good at this.
So that the goal is to fill a 10 frame, the goal is to fill 2 10s frame.
Look at
you
that.
go. Whatever it may be.
Wow.
My favorite thing about this is, you're like one of the kids. You'd be trying to talk to a student just like that, and there you go. But the best thing is you're calling your students over to work on instructional groups. And sometimes, even though they're near the same level in an instructional group, you're having fun there, aren't you? It might be near the same level. They're not always working on the same exact skill. So if I called Kim and, Andy and Tyler over to my instruction group, and they're working at my table with me, while we're still working on the same concept of subitizing, they're all working on their own goal, so that I'm going to have Kim working on the magic number 4. I'm going to have Andy working on the magic number 10. Whatever it may be, they're all working on the same goal of subitizing.
Yes, absolutely.
But they're all playing at their own speed, and I can be assessing observationally whether or not they're getting that skill while they're all 3 playing a game, rather than we're just sitting and practicing a skill.
Right. Okay, so the next one we created was this one called Roll and Fill. You know, guys, you know you love to go to the Dollar Tree, right? So Adam and I were going up and down aisles, and we were looking for cute little things that we could put to make the game. So we found these cookie cutters. And we said, well, we could do some kind of fill. So when you pick out the cookie cutters, you want to remember how many pom-poms that cookie cutter is going to hold. So if you have a huge cookie cutter, it's going to hold a lot of pom-poms. Right. Also, when we first tried it, we had a smaller pom-pom, and it was just too many pom-poms.
And they stick together too much, and it was hard.
Well, I didn't want to be more than
counting to 45.
Right. You know, if you want a higher number, then just reduce the size of your pom-pom. That's an easy way
or use beads
to differentiate. You know, you just say, here's your bowl of pom-poms. Not, oh, honey, you got the little pom-poms because you need to count more, and you got the big pom-poms because you need to count less.
Another easy thing to do is put this in like a sensory center, and they could use corn kernels or beans or rice.
Absolutely.
Well, not rice. Rice would take forever, but corn kernels, pumpkin seeds, things like that.
Yeah.
I'm having a sensory center.
Yep.
Or a discovery bin, that I like to call them, and they could be counting those things.
Right. So after they fill up the shape, then they're going to move those to their tens frame. Guys, the reason why we've used tens frames is because there again, we're developing that mental image of what those numbers look like, right? So then we decided, well, let's make it a way where teachers who don't have access to cookie cutters can make. And so we just made it with clip art. All right, so you just put a clip art picture in there, one that's easy to fill up. Okay, you wouldn't want one that's got a lot of different parts to it. Just fill that up and then take those pom-poms and move them to your tens frame.
Well, the thing I like about the clip art one too is you're gonna have some students who they love the game, but you have those students who can't sit sometimes, right? And if they see that cookie cutter and they don't see it full, they're like, oh, I gotta keep going sometimes. Where some of your students who might need a quick in and out learning this skill, it's gonna be filled pretty quickly.
Right. So this one is called Race the Timer.
This is a fun
and I love this one. And do we have our little chicky guy over there?
We found these little timers.
All right. Isn't
These
that
guys,
cute?
oh, here we go.
So you
go put it on the table.
You crank it up. Oh, come on.
Why is everything not hopping today? We've been playing with it too much.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go. All right.
We got those at the Dollar Tree.
Yeah. So you could use any kind of timer. It could be a regular egg timer. It could be anything. But we need two because we're doing addition.
Oh, we're doing addition.
And we need our cubes.
Sorry.
All right. So you could play this 2 people. You could play this 1 person. You could play 2 people playing at the same time. Let's do that.
We could. Yep.
So as soon as I roll, you're going to pick up and roll.
All right.
Okay. So we're going to crank up our timer.
And it could be against each other, or we could be playing this together.
Right. To try to work together. So we're going to roll. You get the dice. You get the dice.
I'm turn him so he doesn't go off the table.
And I get it. Come on, crank up. I get it. I got an 8, so I'm gonna go. It would be better if we weren't trying to keep this on.
Well, if we weren't on a tiny little table too, we'd be okay.
Okay, so then I'm gonna roll, and I get a 3. So we basically, our timer stopped, so we have to stop. And then we realize, okay, we didn't make any road to the top.
We didn't make them.
So we didn't win that game.
Or
but I could just see this game getting hysterical.
It'd be so fun. Yes, or you could just use regular old sand timers.
Yeah, I think we even had a regular sand timer
somewhere.
They had them at the Dollar Tree. We picked up a regular one at the Dollar Tree. So you could definitely just do this with the regular. But this was, we did Race the Timer edition.
We just thought this was so fun though, too, this little guy.
Yeah.
And that Classroom Screen website we mentioned, the Classroom Screen has different kinds of timers on there as well, too. So if you want a timer that's a sand timer, a clock ticking down, there's all kinds of timers on there.
So we also did here's just Race the Timer with 1 dice. We also did Race the Timer subtract and Race the Timer to 10. So we tried to create the same game using different standards so that you could differentiate between your kids.
Right.
And everybody could be plugging in at
one of my favorite timers too, we didn't talk about this earlier, but is on YouTube, you can find minute to win it timers that can be different lengths.
Yeah.
So let's say, you just finished your math block, it's time to go to lunch, but you set a minute win it timer. Everybody gets out there, race the timer board, and you say go. And just turn the minute to win timer on, and they practice their addition skills for 1 minute before they head to the bathroom to get ready for lunch.
Right. It wouldn't be quite the hot mess that was.
It wouldn't be, but well, that bouncy timer works better on a bigger table. We're in like we're in a 1 foot space right here.
Okay. All right. So this is another one we did called Roll and Stack. Basically, you give kids 4 dice. They roll the 4 dice, and then they put them in number order. So you see, we did that with cards and dominoes and dice, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Not even on purpose. We just did it.
It just happens. Same idea here, but here they're rolling 2 dice at a time, put them together, 2 more dice, put them together, 2 more dice, put them together. And then you add the sum together, and then you have to put them. So you can see this one will be a lot more challenging.
Yeah, it's a little bit. Right? And the thing I love about these too is automatic differentiation. Every type of learning is happening here. This one I love because it really makes them think. Because there's 2 options to there. There's 2 spaces to put it. So when you roll the dice with this one, you're trying to figure out which dice is more, which dice is less. If they're not the same, you put them in those top 2 boxes. But we also want to get kids to understand the idea of equal, and that it's not, we're not just shoving it aside. Like a lot of times we'll just play a more or less game and equal doesn't matter. You roll again. Here we really want them to understand the concept of equal. So if they roll 2 dice like you see in the second picture that are equal, they actually have to identify that and put it in an equal spot, and on the recording sheet write that in the equal box.
Right, perfect.
We have to understand that concept of equal needs to be just as important as more or less, so they understand it as they go. Okay. And then this one's the same, but we're just rolling sums of more, less, or equal, and make sure that they're identifying both.
Okay, so that's our last game.
We just gave you a lot.
Yeah, so we hope that those games will help you bring some engagement and hopefully will help you reduce your stress a little bit.
Yep.
Because we tried to find games that were pretty simple, that you can play with stuff that most kids are going to have, or that you can easily send home to them.
Yeah, so one person is gonna win packs that have all of those games and more that we talked about in those. If you're not the lucky winner, you can still get them. They're all in Kim's Teachers Pay Teacher store.
Right.
Just search Kim Adsit, right? Or is it Kindergals?
It's just Kim Adsit, Kim Adsit store. So you'll be able to get those units there.
There you go.
Okay. All right. Well, we want to thank y'all for joining us.